day out, we are constantly bombarded with food advice by our parents, our well-meaning friends, magazines, websites, you name it, the list is endless. But how do we separate fact from fiction? Can bananas really make you happier? Is there human hair in your bread? Ew! How can that be? And does the rice spin trick really work to help resurrect your wet phone? Well, we're going to reveal all the truths behind these food myths. Food fact or food fiction? Get ready, because you're about to find out. Being a food investigator, I really ought to be an expert on all things food by now. I mean, well, in theory. But to be honest, there's all sorts of claims about food out there. You know, some of them sound reasonable, some of them are just too absurd to be true, and others you hear so frequently that you think, well, they must be true. But are they really? Like this, right here. I think I boiled this twice. And my mom always used to say, double boiled water is contaminated water. But is that fact or fiction?
So what really happens is when you boil water, the water becomes steam, and therefore the water in principle gets concentrated. But the concentration of some of the minerals are going to be so modest that there is no issue about contamination that I would be worried about.
Wow, there's just so much to discover when it comes to food myths. And there's no time to waste. I need to go out and find the truth. Just give me a sec. Right, so I have to take these with me. I'm trying to have 6 smaller meals rather than 3 big meals every day, because apparently that's how I'm going to lose weight, I guess.
The debate about whether eating 6 meals versus 3 meals for weight loss is an open question. But I think the weight of evidence seems to suggest that eating 6 small meals may be more beneficial for weight loss. Every time you eat a small meal, we have something called diet-induced thermogenesis, which means that you burn up some calories. But 6 small meals could be, my view, of a better option for weight regulation.
Keep in mind that losing weight is also about the total amount of calories you consume. Now let's see if people can separate fact from fiction.
Bananas fight depression.
Facts?
No, it's not a fact, it's fiction.
Fiction.
Fact?
Fact.
Bananas fight depression, yes.
Yeah, I mean, bananas are healthy, so yeah, why not?
Well, it turns out that banana is a very interesting fruit because it's a very high carbohydrate, quite low in protein, but it also has got a compound called tryptophan that converts to serotonin, which actually is a mood-enhancing amino acid. You need only small amount of tryptophan to be converted to serotonin, and that's why banana is quite an interesting fruit for making one feel happy.
Consuming dairy causes acne. Fact.
Fiction.
Fiction.
I think this is true.
Fiction, fiction.
Fiction.
Fact.
Consuming dairy causes acne. I don't think so.
Studies dating as far back as 1949 point that dairy does appear to be weakly associated with acne. However, the exact mechanism behind this association is still inconclusive.
The debate about whether dairy products causes acne is an open one because some people do respond rather badly to consuming dairy products in terms of the acne, but in many others it does have no effect at all. So I think it all depends on you as the person, how you respond to dairy products.
One way to know if dairy products are responsible for your acne is to keep a food diary. And remember, talk to your dermatologist.
Coffee is unhealthy. Fact. Fact.
Coffee is unhealthy. Fiction.
Coffee is unhealthy, yes.
Fact.
Fiction.
I think it's how much coffee you take, but okay, yes.
Coffee is unhealthy.
Fact.
Interestingly, repeated studies have shown that those that consume reasonable amount of coffee per day, which is 3 or 4 cups, have a lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Coffee is also extremely good to enhance your cognition. In the elderly, coffee may actually play a role in reducing your rate of decline of memory loss.
It's still hard to say why coffee has an impact on diabetes or memory loss. Caffeine may be the key, but more studies need to be done to confirm it. One thing is for sure, we're talking about black coffee, no sugar. I just recently joined a fancy gym and I've made so many friends and having a great time. In fact, I've just added Zach as a friend online and he's just, oh, he's so gorgeous. I mean, he's really fit and of course, very nice. But the thing is, Zach is really into healthy snacks, so I thought I'd follow in his footsteps. He must know what he's doing, right? Yes, fat-free yogurt. Zach told me about this. He was really excited. He said it's not even reduced fat or low fat or light. It's fat-free yogurt. See? Hashtag fat-free, hashtag 0% fat. But I don't know. Do you think this is for real? There's gotta be a catch.
The fat-free, as the term implies, by nomenclature, it's true that it contains no fat. But the flip side of that is that if you don't have fat, you need to have some other filling, which tends to be carbohydrate or sugar. So the key point to note is that if you are attempting to eat flavored fat-free yogurt, it is not laden with sugar, and therefore you'll actually obviate the very reason for eating low-calorie foods.
Blueberries. I really love blueberries. In fact, I really wanted to get the frozen blueberries because they last longer, but Zach said fresh fruits are better than frozen fruits. Hashtag always fresh, hashtag blueberry mornings.
So there is an urban myth that frozen foods are always worse or anti-nutritional, and the short answer is no. The reason why frozen foods have a better nutritional profile is because as soon as they're harvested, they are frozen. Therefore, the nutrients are locked and preserved. Think of a cabbage that's been sitting in a shelf for 4, 7, 8 days, and the sunlight and the oxygen can break down many of the nutrients that are found in these products.
Butter. Oh, butter. Okay. Zach says butter is bad for you and margarine is better for your health. I don't know, man. Zach's an attractive guy, but I think he's a little off here. Ugh. Hashtag starting to doubt Zach.
Butter is natural, it's not processed. When I compare with margarine, butter has cholesterol. Margarine does not have cholesterol, does not have saturated fat. And nowadays, because of the food processing technology, margarine also has 0 trans fat-free margarine. If a patient comes to me as a dietitian, I write, if I look at the cholesterol levels, then I may say, yeah, instead of butter, you go for margarine. But if it's a healthy growing child, why not use butter, but in moderation?
Coming up, we investigate some interesting food myths from the 16th century. And can rice save a phone that's soaked wet? We test it out for you. We're on a mission to separate food fact from fiction. And so far, we've discovered that frozen fruits are just as good as fresh fruits. And can bananas help lift your mood? Yes!
Bananas has got a compound which actually is a mood-enhancing amino acid for making one feel happy.
Separating fact from fiction is a really fun job. That is, until you find out some real facts that are stranger than fiction. There's human hair in your bread? Ew! How can that be? It doesn't look like it. Maybe this one's bald.
A amino acid called cysteine is added to bread as a flour improver. And cysteine is an amino acid that's found in all proteins, including hair. It is true that when you break down hair, it produces cysteine, but almost all countries in the world do not use cysteine acquired from hair, but from fermentation from bacteria. And therefore, I think the idea that cysteine from hair is therefore found in bread is completely an urban myth.
It's good to know that food scientists have your back. You can always rely on them for the real facts. But it wasn't always like this, you know. Back in the day, we had some very different beliefs when it came to your average food items. I've been doing a little bit of research into food myths from the past, and I want to see if you can guess what this vegetable fruit is. Now, it's very common nowadays. You can find it in pizzas, and pastas, and salads, and in curries. And there's 7,000 different varieties of this vegetable fruit. And in the 16th century, people believed that if you ate it, you were doomed. Can you guess what it is? The tomato.
In 1700s, people were eating on pewter plates, which were made of lead. They contained high contents of lead. So when tomatoes being acidic, when they were served on these pewter plates, there was a chemical reaction between the tomatoes and the lead. the lead in the pewter, and slowly the lead started leaching, and when this was eaten along with the other chemicals and when the tomatoes were eaten, this led to kind of slow poisoning over a period of time, and people started falling sick. But to add on, we really don't know for sure whether it's just a speculation.
It's sure interesting to see how simple chemistry can transform a harmless tomato into something poisonous, given the right conditions. Let's try this one on for size. It's a starchy root vegetable. It originated in South America. Now, it wasn't always popular. In the 17th century, people thought it was flavorless and only suitable for the poor. And they also believed that it was poisonous. But they might have been onto something. The potato.
The reason why potato was avoided during the 16th and 17th century was because when it came from South America to Europe, it was a completely novel food. And many people were concerned that this novel food may cause increased anxiety and sexual discourse, and therefore they discouraged people from eating potato by saying that it would cause leprosy. There's absolutely no evidence that it causes leprosy at all. The only concern you'd have to eat potatoes today is that you must make sure that the potatoes that you consume does not contain any green color in the product. Because if it does, it contains a highly toxic compound called solanine, and that is a known toxin. But most of us who consume potato will not eat potatoes that are green in color.
Our smartphones are definitely our most cherished pieces of technology. I mean, they're an extension of our anatomy. We take it with us everywhere we go, to the restaurant, to the park, and yes, sometimes they do get wet, so we panic. What do we do? How do we revive our most prized possession? Well, apparently food might be able to help. Legend says that if you put your wet smartphone into some uncooked rice, it will help to absorb the moisture and bring your phone back to life. But is this true? Can rice really help, or can other types of food come to the rescue?
I have 5 food items here to see how well they absorb water. Plain rice, instant rice, rolled oats, instant oats, pearl couscous, and I have a non-food item, something designed to absorb liquids, cat litter. In this experiment, you actually don't have to use a phone. I used wet sponges in place of the phone because what we're really testing is how good are these materials at drawing moisture out of something.
To see if rice or other food items can indeed rescue a completely wet phone, we left the sponges in the food items for 24 hours. We even left a sponge on the counter as control.
Let's start with plain rice.
It's time for the results. The lower the weight of the sponge, the better the food is at absorbing moisture.
It turns out the most effective is pearl couscous. Plain rice is right in the middle of the pack. It's not even as effective as just leaving your phone on the counter. The least effective of anything, which kind of surprised me, is the cat litter. So it turns out rice really isn't that effective at drawing water out of things. And to varying degrees, these other materials worked okay. I think the best thing to do, though, is just to leave your phone out on the counter.
Coming up, there are plenty more food myths ahead. Does eating fish make you smarter? Is granola healthier than cereal? And we'll show you how your cooking knowledge might be all wrong. Can you tell what's food fact and what's food fiction? Don't worry, we've got your back. We've discovered that rice will not bring a wet phone back to life. And no, bread does not contain human hair.
Now it's time to hit the streets to see if people can really tell the difference between food facts and food fiction.
Eating fish makes you smarter. I think it's true. It's a fact.
Yes, fact.
I think it's fiction.
Fact.
Fiction. Eating fish makes you smarter, yes. For the omega.
Fish contains a set of fatty acids called omega-3 fatty acids. And these omega-3 fatty acids are also found in abundance in the human brain. So the association is that fish consumption is important for brain development. And I think the jury is out on that, but there is no harm in believing in this because at the end of the day, getting omega-3 from other sources is quite challenging. Therefore, a fish is a very ready-made source of omega-3 for brain development.
Cravings are a sign that nutrients are missing from your diet of fiction.
Yeah, I think it's true.
Yes, but depends on what craving and what nutrients, right?
Cravings are a sign of nutrients missing from your diet. Oh.
I think it's fact.
I think that can go both ways, as fact and not fact.
In humans, there's very little evidence that a deficiency in the body asks the individual to crave for certain foods, except perhaps when you're pregnant. There appears to be some evidence that during pregnancy, some of the cravings may be partly driven by a deficiency that the mother is trying to ameliorate. So therefore, in general, cravings are not a good source of selecting foods for nutrients, but perhaps in some rare occasions like pregnancy, it may have a role in human growth and development.
Diarrhea is the best food for healthy bones is fiction.
Fact. Don't agree entirely, no.
Fact? That's a fact.
Fiction, although you can get some calcium from dairy.
Dairy is one of the best sources for a healthy bone for two reasons. Firstly, it contains calcium, and secondly, it contains phosphorus, and thirdly, it contains a protein called casein, and also some vitamin D. So the answer is yes, dairy is a good product for healthy bones.
Protein improves mental focus. Fact.
Fact?
Yeah, I think so. Fact.
Fiction. I think it's fact.
Protein improves mental focus. No, I don't think so.
There is no scientific evidence to demonstrate that. What should I do to improve your mental focus? Perhaps eat a high glycemic index diet. And of course, caffeine is a very well-known product that increases mental performance and mental cognition.
Whenever I have time off from my investigations, I love to cook. Now, I'm no professional, but I like to think that I am.
I think I've learned a thing or two about cooking in my day, but I'm going to get Chef Dan Siegel to vet my food knowledge anyway.
I know I'm right. I hope I'm right.
I love beans. Kidney beans, broad beans, green beans. But there's one thing I know we should never ever do when cooking beans.
Chef, salting beans during cooking makes them tough.
No, that's incorrect. When you're salting dried beans, both in the pre-soaking and during the cooking, it helps to break them down, the skins, and makes the beans nice and creamy. It's got something to do with the ions in the beans. Magnesium and calcium are naturally replaced with the sodium ions from the salt, so it adds for lots of flavor and a nice, soft texture.
Chef, frying food at the highest possible temperature prevents the food from absorbing the oil.
Not exactly. Oil absorption into food has got everything to do with the temperature and the speed at which it cools and not at which it's cooked. Think about it like this. When you've got a pot that's boiling, steam is coming out, right? That's your vapor pressure. It's the same when you've got something being cooked. You put it in the oil. When it starts cooking, water is coming out in the form of steam. So in order to avoid having oily fried foods, you want to get the oil off the item while it's still hot and the vapor pressure is positive. So as soon as it comes out of the oil, put on a paper towel, get the oil off, and then you can enjoy a nice, non-greasy piece of fried food.
Chef, when you're boiling pasta, remember to drizzle lots of olive oil into the pot to prevent the pasta from sticking.
There's no point to that. Nikki, think about it. Where does the oil stay when you're cooking the pasta?
In the water.
On top of the water, and the pasta's at the bottom, so they never interact.
Yeah, but that's why you have to mix from time to time. Every few minutes, you keep mixing.
The oil and the water are always going to stay separate.
Okay, but what about salt? Because I put salt in there sometimes as well to prevent sticking.
No. You use salt for flavor and texture, but not for sticking. Salt adds flavor, of course, and it affects the cooking temperature of the water, but it's got nothing to do with sticking.
Okay, this one I know I'm right. When I'm done boiling the pasta, I like to run some cold water on top of it to prevent sticking and also so it doesn't overcook, so it can be al dente.
Don't ever do that. Nikki, when you run water over your nicely cooked pasta, you're removing the salt, you're removing the starches that have come out that help your sauce to stick. When the pasta's done cooking, drain it, add a little bit of olive oil to the drained pasta, and let it cool down from there. And your noodles will never stick.
So how many did I get wrong now, Chef?
All of them.
Now, I need to get back to the supermarket. I still have plenty of healthy food tips in my shopping list.
I really like regular milk, but Zach, my gym crush, my gym buddy, is a real health buff, and he always endorses flavored soybean milk. He says you can't go wrong with chocolate or strawberry flavored soy milk. So, look at this. Hashtag soya milk, hashtag flavored drinks. But I wonder if he ever reads the labels, to see if it's really that much better for you.
When you take about soybean milk, it's healthy. It also has lower glycemic index levels because the carbohydrate in soy milk is actually slow-release carbohydrate naturally. But once it's being flavored, if they add sugar, but if the sugar content is within the norm and it's got a healthier choice symbol, it should be all right. So it's mainly about label reading, and again, the consumer, are they aware of it? They cannot just see soy and then they think, oh, it's healthy, I can take it.
Breakfast cereal. I should be able to figure this out by myself, right? Okay, fine. I'll just check in to see what Zach has to say about it. Cereal, you are a sugar bomb. Keep fit, eat granola instead. Hashtag granola, you are the one. Hashtag cereal sugar bomb.
Granola, as the term implies, something exotic and contains rolled oats and nuts and many sort of dried fruits. But what we don't appreciate is it also might contain lots of sweet products, indeed also some honey and sugar. So therefore, adding it all together, it may be no different than a normal off-the-shelf breakfast cereal. But I think the point again is to read the labels for you to understand what the product you're consuming and what it contains.
I guess the secret is always read the label. There's some food out there that's advertised to be healthier for you, but there's a good chance it's not, so keep your eyes open. Now, as for you, Zach, I find you very good looking, but I believe the time has come to unfollow you. I feel so much healthier. This is liberating. It's now time to close the book on some commonly heard and often believed food myths. Now, don't be ashamed if you've fallen for some of them before. It happens to the best of us. Some of these sayings and promises sound attractive and even feel right, but don't believe them just yet. It's important that you fact-check them against various different sources to see if they really hold water. And that, my friends, is a job that never ends. Stay sharp.